You opened your eyes to life as the son of an extremely powerful family. According to some, the son of a mother affiliated with a religion whose name I cannot say right now. According to others, the son of a billionaire father from those powerful states. It is sometimes difficult to say what profession your father does, but your father introduces himself and was known as a finance expert, a businessman doing production and exports. In short, you were extremely rich and powerful. Your life was not going to pass action-packed in childhood like in the previous video. But that does not mean we will get bored in this video. In this video, you are the one managing. Without dragging it out, you started school. After reading primary school, middle school, high school in the country's most equipped schools, you came to university. Everything was perfectly normal, exactly as a child of a rich family should live. And when you finished university in the most equipped way, you started looking after your father's company's affairs. Of course, you're not in the forefront yet. It is too early to have such power, but something felt different. As if there was a power, but you couldn't see it. I was hoping you would see what it was soon. After the day you experienced that feeling, years passed. You were in the last of your 40s, very close to 50, and you had grasped your father's affairs and were running them. It had been a long time since you understood what that power you couldn't make sense of was. You had understood that power with the logos that have a say in every field, the one with a single eye. Yes, viewer, I know you are saying this inside. How can this man be in his 50s? But for you, the concept of time does not work like it does in normal people. You are a member of that group that holds almost more than half of the world's wealth. That's why you live with the best health services, supplements, and apart from that, a life away from stress. So, do you really exist? In theory, yes, you exist. But instead of showing yourself, you use your pawns. Because if people do not have information about you, they cannot know how they will respond to you. Or rather, to whom they will respond. When necessary, you take a country's economy in your hand and play with it. When necessary, you make them retaliate. If you want, I can give a few examples. The event that went down in financial history as Black Wednesday and happened on September 16th, 1992, is the sole proof of what strategy you actually followed. At that time, European countries were trying to peg their currencies to each other. England had promised that the value of the sterling would not fall below this level. But inflation was high in England and the economy was shaky. George Soros and his team noticed this. England cannot keep this promise. Its money is actually not that valuable. Soros, using all the means at his disposal, borrowed approximately $10 billion worth of British sterling from the market. Then one day he sold all of it and bought German marks in return. So a huge sterling supply suddenly entered the market. Everyone started panicking. What is happening? Why is so much sterling being sold? The British government did two things to save the sterling. They bought back sterling using their own foreign exchange reserves. But Soros's sale was so big that the reserves were not enough. And in a single day, they raised interest rates, first from 10% to 12%, then to 15%. But the market was already scared once. The money in people's hands was losing value on the spot, and nobody wanted to hold sterling. That's why everyone was selling sterling and investing their money in different currency rates. On the evening of the same day, England gave up, and the sterling lost incredible value that night. So what did Soros gain? When sterling was demolished, he collected back the sterling he sold at high price from the market very cheaply. He paid back the 10 billion sterling he borrowed and put a clean $1 billion in his pocket, which was a huge amount with the money of that time. The money that came out of the British people's pockets in one night went into the pocket of one man and the funds behind him. Here you are, from the families that direct them, not the ones trying to get rid of the sterlings. You continue to add money to your money every day, so your probability of losing is zero. Therefore, your probability of going bankrupt is also not there. Even, do you want me to tell you something more assertive? War is almost a celebration for you. I'm not joking. I'm serious. War means blood and tears for people. For you, it is sometimes a theatre, sometimes a profitable business. When a conflict breaks out, you sell the equipment needed for the conflict. But you don't make profit just by selling weapons. You finance both sides. Fighting is costly. Tanks, fighter jets, possible crises, and a huge army that needs to be financed. For this, money is needed, and I bet that no state pays this in hot money. What do? They visit your banks. You give credit to both the attacker and the defender at the same time. The longer the war lasts, of course the interest rates start moving. I ask you, in such a situation, would you want the war to end? Of course not. That's why you apply the necessary sanctions so that the war continues. And of course, war also has results. Here, the most productive part of the war for you begins. In a country coming out of war, cities are destroyed, infrastructure has collapsed, ports have burned. That country needs to stand up, right? Here your construction, energy and technology companies come into play. You give credit to that country once more to rebuild those destroyed cities, and you collect that money back by entering tenders with your own companies. So you give the money, you do the job. On top of that, you drown the country in interest. Because it is difficult for a country just out of war, that is experiencing so much economic hardship, to pay the money. Under the name of debt restructuring, you reach for the country's assets and take away the mines and resources that are useful to you. So you even profit from war, because you establish the real estate, finance, pharmaceutical, defense industry, energy, technology companies that direct the world. For example, I want to tell an event from the periods when real estate market had interesting profits. The event is so easily understandable that even a baby can understand. But this plan is as devilish as it is simple and understandable. These happened to the Thai people and the state. Huge volume banks distributed huge housing credits to people on the street who don't even have money to buy a sausage. Hey buddy, why don't you have a house? Isn't your salary enough? Never mind, come. We'll give you interest, we'll provide flexible interests, they said. Naturally, a demand that shouldn't exist was formed in the market, and house prices inflated like a balloon. These banks took these rotten credits that were obvious they wouldn't be paid, mixed them with other solid investments, and sold them to the whole world as golden value investment packages. Their own rating agencies also gave the highest safe note to these trashes. The plan was ticking perfectly. The interest rates of the given credits were ready to be played with. So whose were the banks? Yours. And the interest suddenly experienced an increase never seen in history. While the people were newly settling into their homes, they suddenly stayed outside the door. A lot of homeless people, but much more housing happened. Of course, since nobody could buy a house, I'm not joking, the prices fell by half. At the end of the day, an ordinary person was now living on the street like the homeless. Now you were collecting houses at bottom prices, as if in a supermarket. That's why your money doesn't lose. You determine the price. People turn into modern slaves who pay you rent for life. In theory, the families that rule the world have serious investments in giants like Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Even the most common example given to the families that rule the world is Rockefeller. But it is wrong to put a period on this subject with a single family. It is quite difficult to know all these names, and they also have investments in all of these categories. In theory, these guys manage everything up to social media. The system is this: social media algorithms are built on interaction. If they don't want an idea or a rebellion to grow, they restrict its access instead of deleting that content directly. This is called shadow ban. You think you are shouting, but your voice doesn't echo, and artificial agenda is created. For example, you wake up one morning and everyone is talking about some silly thing. Here they manipulate those trend lists with bot armies and media agencies so that people don't talk about really important things. For example, a new tax law or a war decision. But the dark dimension of the job uses this power. For example, if house prices need to weaken in a place, then news about that place turns. Like a woman was found dead in her house with unreal outcries. Or unfortunately, sometimes with really made-up setups, a few people are sacrificed, and the region's reliability is lowered. When the value drop reaches the desired level, houses are bought at cheap prices, and with a few investments made to the region, the safe perception is recreated, and houses are sold again at ceiling prices. Most of us call these events fairy tales, but these formations have been repeating for years and always in another form. But the base is the same. The thing that comes to us as a fairy tale is that we think a family or a group we have never seen physically did these. But if you say a state or an institution did it, I'm sure we would all believe it. In addition to the British sterling, the Thailand events, let me give one more example from recent history. After the 2008 crisis, Greece's debts suddenly exploded. So how did it happen? Credit rating agencies, which are also part of this family's financial network. So actually, the evaluating institutions are the companies of the people called the families that rule the world. These companies with this power made Greece's financial statistics bottom overnight. Was what they did legal? Yes. So there was an agreement in the direction of making a rating, and the rating was made. At the end of the day, Greece did not make any borrowing arrangement, or rather was not allowed. Well, of course, after such a situation, the collection period came. They bought Greece's ports, airports, and even the islands belonging to the state at very funny prices. Greece would not give those beautiful ports, islands, even as a result of war, but financial acrobatics forced them to give them. So in short, you also determine whose turn the wheel will come, and who will enter the game, and who will be eliminated. You reached into people's pockets with real estate and banks. But there is one thing missing. That is agriculture. Of course, you have a say in this subject too. More than 60%, and even more of the world's seed producers are managed by a few companies. The system is like this. Give single-use seed to people dealing with agriculture, but so that the farmer wants to buy again, make it very productive, and eliminate the continuous seeds. Make the farmer dependent on you. Then when you lower the quality and reduce the cost, your profit rate will already go through the roof. So in short, political powers, in food, in money, it is under your control. When there is a leader who opposes this situation, it is not hard to weaken the government with these stages I mentioned, and overthrow it, or arrange an assassination, is not hard. Behind the curtain, while old uncles sitting with their peers drinking their beer say, apparently a group rules the world too. Really strange. And talk about you. You enjoy it. I would enjoy it too. After shaping people into a certain mold with food, it's time for health. Let me give you an interesting information. The pharmaceutical industry and the factories form the most profitable product. But here there is an irony. Completely healing a patient is a financial suicide. Every healed patient is an escapee from the system. Real profit is in chronic diseases, hypertension, sugar, cholesterol. Those situations that don't kill a person but make him dependent on medicine for life. You are not actually selling healing. While your foundations fund medical education, they create a curriculum that will make doctors prescribe only your medicines. Conspiracy theorists keep shouting that the cancer medicine was found but is being hidden. But you have already worked on another virus and calculated its profit. So does the order really work? Let's take a look at the statistics. In 1975, there were approximately 594 million hypertension patients in the world. This figure has now exceeded 1.3 billion. So there is more than double increase in 50 years. So actually we see that the population has also increased more than double since that date. Some people unaware of the world say population is increasing. If any of you think the population doubled in 50 years, you can close the video. Be sure, this video is not for you. There is a non-parallel course. So is this good news? Yes for you, but no for humanity. Actually, this is proof that the order you established has been working for years. Instead of people healing and leaving the system, despite so many years and technological progress, they have to buy the medicines you put on the market. You have operations, and in the end, a different problem constantly comes out. Now I want to tell you about a part that comes to me very interesting. The limit of hypertension disease was changed, so you can interpret it as 14:9 ratio. So it was lowered to values like 138. This of course ensures that even a person who is not a hypertension patient is now placed in the patient category. But what really interests me is this. So what are the people who are not really hypertension patients but using hypertension medicines drinking? If it is really hypertension medicine, what happens as a result? Please inform me too, and indicate this in the comments. Diabetes disease can be considered the biggest success of the food industry. In 1980, there were approximately 108 million diabetes patients worldwide. Today, this figure is around 540 million, so the increase rate is approximately 500%, and it is expected that this figure will reach 780 million by 2045. So 1 in every 8 to 10 people will have diabetes. This means an endless artificial mine for the firms producing insulin and sugar medicine. Cholesterol, while actually being a building block produced by the body, was turned into a complete monster with marketing strategies. Before 1980, cholesterol medicines almost did not exist. After the first statin was approved in 1987, this market grew huge. And when I try to tell more, the way was opened, interestingly, for hundreds of diseases. You are also struggling from morning to evening to manage this established order. When evening comes, you look down from the window of your jet. Down there, millions of pawns are trying to save their small lives. You, on the other hand, are smiling, with your non-aging face, with your drink in your hand. For them, this is a conspiracy theory. For you, it is just an ordinary day. Yes, friends, such a situation may exist or may not exist. Let these theories told about these subjects stay aside. The historical examples and statistics were like this. So do you think it can be real? I am waiting for your answers in the comments. If you came this far in the video, I would be happy if you like and subscribe. See you in the next What If.